Right, ladies and gentlemen, I see that we have a few more people who've joined us, and perhaps there will still be more who will be doing so, but let's get the show on the road. We've got quite a busy and good session. In this session, we'll be hearing from South Africa regarding the recent introduction of the FSMA's FSM Toolbox to South Africa. We have a very interesting lineup of speakers who will take us through this recent journey, including speakers from the National Department of Water and Sanitation, i.e. the sanitation sector lead and regulator, and our speaker will be providing a national overview of sanitation and FSM challenges and opportunities. That's followed by a speaker from the Water Research Commission putting out challenges and rewards of innovation within this space. We then have a brief online poll followed by a short introductory video clip to the FSM Toolbox, whereafter a South African WASH practitioner will talk about the recent FSMA initiative to both profile and introduce the FSM Toolbox into South Africa. This will be followed by a speaker from local municipal government sharing their experiences as a volunteer municipality around early stage adoption of the toolbox. And lastly, we have Athena Informatics sharing their insights into the future evolution of the FSM Toolbox. So welcome everybody. We would really want to make the most of this time together. So we would strongly encourage you to make use of the chat box to place questions to the speakers during their respective presentations. And they will then do their best to answer these immediately thereafter. After these presentations and your posting of the questions, we will have a panel discussion, putting any big and fascinating and or the wicked questions from the workshop participants to the speakers for that panel discussion. Throughout the session, I'm going to be assisted as your chair by Ms. Tabisa Didi, who will be introducing the individual speakers as we go. So without further ado, and wrapping up my warm welcome over to Tabisa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grant. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for attending the session today. Our first speaker is Ms. Lusanda Mvenqa Agbasi. Lusanda is a Deputy Director, Sanitation Program Support in the Department of Water Affairs, in the Department of Water and Sanitation in South Africa. Lusanda has over 10 years experience in sanitation service delivery, environmental policies, strategies, and planning for sanitation services in local government. Lusanda is currently managing the development of National Fecal Sludge Management Strategy within the Department of Water and Sanitation. We will just put up Lusanda's presentation. Thank you very much. Over to you, Lusanda.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. I'll be taking you through the status of sanitation in South Africa. As Grant has indicated, may you please do the next slide, please? Colleagues, this is the outline of my presentation. Part one, I'll focus on status of sanitation in South Africa. Then part two, I'll share with you, colleagues, the challenges we are facing in the provision of sanitation. Part three, I'll focus on the status of fecal sludge management in South Africa and the opportunities that are out there. And lastly, I'll conclude. Thank you. Let's move to the next slide. Colleagues, just to take you through quickly the statistics population, we have 16 million households. In South Africa, we have 57 million population. We believe we have made significant progress in the provision of improved sanitation in South Africa. It is important to note, colleagues, that in 1996, we had 49% households that had access to improved sanitation. On the chart top right, it's showing the performance of provinces and the overall performance of the country in the provision of sanitation. In 2018, we have 83% households that had access to improved sanitation. And we are aware of the challenge that we are facing of 2.8 million households that still have no access to sanitation. We have 2% of households that are practicing open defecation. I will take you back, colleagues, to the chart top right, where it shows the performance of the provinces and the country and the overall performance of the country. We have 3 provinces that are less than 80% households with access to sanitation. As we all know that our target is to have 100% households with access to sanitation in the country as per SDG 6.2 target. We are paying more attention on these provinces. In South Africa, the provision of sanitation services goes with hygiene and user education. We looked at the performance of this hygiene and user education program to see the impact on communities out there. When you look at the color code, yellow, it shows the percentage of households that are washing hands with soap after using the toilets, and green shows that it shows the toilet that had hand washing facility with soap. So based on these statistics, colleagues, we've noted that we have 76.2% of households that are washing their hands with soap after using the toilet. We have 67.5% of households that have access to hand washing facilities. This calls for the department, for the sector, to intensify on hygiene and user education so that we change this behavior of not washing the hands, especially in this era of COVID-19. Let's move to the next slide, please. Colleagues, on this slide, I'm sharing the sanitation systems that are used in South Africa. We have flush toilets that are connected to public sewer system at 61.5%, and these waterborne toilets are connected to wastewater treatment works, which the effluent is discharged back to the environment, and the rest of the households are served with on-site sanitation. When you look at the chart, colleagues, you will notice that we have more households that are connected to flush toilets that leads to wastewater treatment works. And the studies that have been conducted shows that in South Africa, we will have shortage in water supply by 2030. Therefore, we are paying more attention now on on-site sanitation so that we deal with the issues of climate change. We respond to the issues of climate change. Let's move to the next slide, please. Colleagues have indicated that we've made significant progress, but it came with challenges. We have 1,150 wastewater treatment works in the country that are managed by municipalities. And 56% of these wastewater treatment works are in a poor to critical condition, meaning that they are discharging poorly treated effluent into the environment. It's one of the challenges we are facing as the country. We have rapid urbanization, which is putting more pressure on sanitation infrastructure. 10% of the households that have been served with on-site sanitation have full pits. And now we are concerned that they will revert back to open defecation. As the country, we haven't given much attention to fecal sludge management for non-sewer sanitation compared to the wastewater treatment works. As a result, now we have a lack of infrastructure and appropriate sanitation technologies across the sanitation service chain. We have limited regulation and enforcement frameworks for on-site sanitation systems. In South Africa, fecal sludge management is still a fairly new concept that we are treating with caution so that we don't have serious issues in social acceptance of the fecal sludge management concept. Another challenge is lack of data for on-site sanitation systems to support fecal sludge management initiatives. The studies that have been conducted in the country, they show that there's groundwater contamination due to the provision of on-site sanitation. These are the challenges we are experiencing, colleagues, in the provision of sanitation. However, the department has made some initiative. Let's move to the next slide, please. Let's move to the next slide. In response to these challenges that we are facing in the country, especially on on-site sanitation, the Department of Water and Sanitation, in collaboration with United States Agency for International Development in Resilient Waters Program, we are developing a national fecal sludge management strategy for on-site sanitation, which will guide the sector on safe management of fecal sludge throughout the sanitation value chain. This project includes piloting fecal sludge management planning tools in one of the municipalities in Polokwane. And these tools that we are looking at, that we've started to pilot, it includes excreta flow diagram, sanitation safety plans, city service delivery assessment, and urban resilient strategy toolkit. We also looked at existing technologies and costing analysis to improve sanitation situation in Polokwane municipality. The project is progressing well. We have established a national steering committee for the development of national fecal sludge management strategy, which includes public and private sector. We have proposed amendments on Water Services Act to respond to the needs for regulating sanitation, especially on-site sanitation in the entire sanitation value chain, aligned to our national sanitation policy, which was adopted in 2016. The Department of Water and Sanitation officials, the sanitation coordinators in 9 regional offices, and the number of water services authorities, they've been trained on fecal sludge management toolbox by MUNICIPal management. That's progress. There are a number of fecal sludge management studies conducted by Water Research Commission, of which we are taking lessons from these studies. The recommendations that are there are helping us to strengthen the strategy that is underdeveloped. So we have a variety of stakeholders that are playing major role in the fecal sludge management space in South Africa. There are opportunities that we can just summarize in the process. Let's move to the next slide. The first opportunities for the stakeholders to participate in the development of national fecal sludge management strategy, to shape the strategy and to strengthen the strategy together. There's an opportunity to review regulatory and enforcement framework, especially on on-site sanitation, to ensure that there are provisions for the entire sanitation value chain. There are opportunities of accelerating the processes for technology assessment and accreditation to ensure a variety of sanitation technologies are available. As I've indicated on the slide, colleagues, we had few on-site sanitation technologies, but now we are focusing on fecal sludge management. There are opportunities now to accelerate the processes so that we have a variety of technologies to choose from. We are collaborating with private sector on innovation, data sharing, manufacturing sanitation products, and as well as marketing these sanitation products. There are opportunities on capacity building. As I've indicated, colleagues, this concept is fairly new, so the sector needs to be capacitated. We would like to explore various models of working with private sector in the entire sanitation value chain. The fecal sludge management tools that are available will assist, especially local government, in planning to ensure that we are planning for the entire sanitation value chain. The intention is to adopt tools like sheet flow diagrams, sanitation safety plans at a local government level, so that all these tools are institutionalized, so that we provide a service to the communities out there. Colleagues, based on our initiative, we've realized that fecal sludge management require participation of stakeholders. Let's move to the next slide. The provision of sanitation involves a number of stakeholders. Therefore, In these initiatives, we require participation of all stakeholders in every step of sanitation value chain. And we believe that the development of National Fecal Sludge Management Strategy establishes a sustainable management and regulatory framework for fecal sludge management in order to ensure its collaborative implementation by the sector. Colleagues, as I've indicated, we've been engaging with a number of stakeholders in the form of national steering committees, as well as bilaterals where we engage with various organizations. And the response we've been receiving is positive and encouraging. And you could see that the organizations and number of public sector stakeholders, they are willing to support this initiative. They see the importance of having a national fecal sludge management strategy in the country. So colleagues, as I've said, we believe where there is a will, there is a way. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Lusanda, for that fascinating work that your department is doing. We really appreciate that. Colleagues are neglected to mention that anyone that's got a question, please drop your question on the chat, and then we will take all the questions during our discussion session later. Our next presenter that we are going to be listening to now is Dr. Sudhir Pillay. Dr. Sudhir Pillay is a research manager for water and water and sanitation features at the Water Research Commission in South Africa. Mr. Pillay, Dr. Pillay also has more than 10 years of experience in water and sanitation industry, and he is currently responsible for the strategic molding of non-sewer sanitation RDI portfolio. Over to you, Dr. Pillay. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone virtually. The presentation I made today, it's been adapted for South Africa. So when you look at this, look at how you can adapt it for your own local context. So I'm going to go quite quickly through some of the slides, just give you a snapshot. Any further things you would like to ask, you can put on the chat. Well, this is pictures of South Africa and the diversity of South Africa. You have high-rise buildings, wonderful, beautiful harbors, but you also have the low-income part, the informal settlements, government-sponsored households. And so when you look at challenges for cities, rapid urbanization, climate change, water security, energy constraints, these are common consistent themes throughout the developing world. Cities tend to have a mix and match approach to sanitation, especially developing countries. We'll have sewers and non-sewage systems, and depending on the level of development, there will be a skew to either side. We tend to have a binary engineering approach where the flush standard is always considered the gold standard from an engineering approach, from a user approach. And this is just a slide that shows an aerial photo. So where you're born and live determines what type of toilet you use. And so you can see the right is very affluent places. They have a flush toilet. On the left, you probably would be with a non-sewage sanitation system. My colleague already presented this. This is an overall statistics for South Africa. We have 65% sewage, and the rest is non-sewage type of systems, mostly dry latrines. Why can't we sewer the country? There's different reasons. It's mostly related to cost and technical capability to do this. This is an example of us trying to actually implement full-scale sewers where they weren't before. As you can see, the dam room level went low and people couldn't flush anymore, so they reverted to using the old dry systems again. You also had a lot of people who were using the sewers, the flush toilet, or without any a proper maintenance of the sewer system. So a lot of this leaked everywhere. If you look at the cost ratio, supers are definitely more than on-site systems, sometimes up to 9 times more than a latrine system. And so we always ask this question, why can't we redesign toilets? What makes a flush toilet desirable? I usually ask my mom. She always says, I can clean it, I can flush it away. Those are constant things. Do we always have to use 9 liters of water? Do we need sewers? And those type of questions. If you look at the composition of feces, most of it's water, but then you have these fiber, fat, and dead material. A lot of this can be converted through engineering purposes into valuable products. Now, key aspects when you look at the FSM Toolbox, it includes the management, the infrastructure, and users. You need a right balance of these different things for your intervention to actually take hold. This is an example. Early in 2000s, when the municipalities put in urine diversion toilets, much better technical option than a VIP, but there were challenges picked up along the way. It's a good technical option, but what the users wanted were quite different. People still wanted to flush. We found that people needed child seats, so the production of these toilets needed to include a toilet seat. Users will not enter, so municipality have to empty, and the pathogen still remained in sludge. So it's a good technical option. And as I said, if you don't have that right blend of people, management, and infrastructure, your solution won't really take off. Okay, this is a continuous learning. This is a communal evolution blocks. On the left is a good managed system, and the right is not a good managed system. So here the infrastructure was good, but they didn't have, on the left, you had someone that will clean the toilet, and on the right, you had someone that didn't clean the toilet. And that comes onto the management approach. So always come back to this, sustainable sanitation. You need these three things to come together: the infrastructure, the management, and the user behavior and experience. These are examples from our studies on school toilets. We had some unfortunate incidents of kids falling into toilets. This was a new school, relatively new, 2010. By 2013, these toilets were all destroyed. So there's no management in place for these type of systems. We're always looking at new toilet systems. As I said, redesigning the toilet system, and we have this program where we're implementing many of these systems in South Africa. And, I'm speaking to a blend of research scientists, government, NGOs, and there'll be different challenges across the technology readiness level. So the scientists look at the parts on the top, okay, and they can control those aspects. But once you start going down to the bottom, you have to guide the process if you're the scientist. So is the legislation, is the authorization, is the bylaws, are they all suitable to address these new type of technologies? Also, when you start looking at circular economy approaches, there's a whole lot of other different aspects that need research and need to do the market research. You need to know if the policy enablers are suitable for a lot of these new type of technologies and what we aim to do. This is UCT. They developed a waterless urinal, and it can convert the pee basically into a liquid fertilizer. Now, this was a very rudimentary version. They have upgraded that version. They've also made bricks from pee. So the concept on a TR level we have developed. The next aspect is actually looking at this from a business perspective. How scalable is this type of process? What type of scaling would we need to make this profitable? This is our pore flush system that we developed at the WRC, and it's now being scaled. So basically the concept from Asia was taken, but now you have a sitting pedestal and people wipe. So it's not a washing culture, it's a wiping culture. Can you flush this? We have different systems that have been developed, but this is the map of how fast we move these systems. Okay, so it took 5 years from TR level 1 to TR level 9. Okay, and we have a bit of a critical mass if you look on your right in terms of implementation of this type of system. It's just because people like the system and they like this ability to flush. We've done a lot of surveys finished last year on a lot of these systems. People still like a bit more convenience and have a bit of a system, a low flushing system. So that has been produced as part of the technology. There are a lot of re-engineered applications that are being demonstrated and field tested in South Africa. This is the latest one that came to South Africa and it's been placed into school. Really looks nice. So everything's being recycled, reused. This is another picture of it. And as I mentioned before, to support a lot of these new technologies, and we're talking about the TR level 6 to 9, you need to actually have a program in support. So we at the WRC, we have this SASTEP program. It gives us soft landing for new technology. It provides a research direction, the guidance of why we should choose these new technologies also. So there's a lot of new reports that we're looking at in terms of flushing volumes, how would you install these type of systems, a lot of guidance, technical manuals produced as part of this. We come to the management aspect, a very critical aspect. This is the franchising team. Basically, how a franchisor works is that you have a main business that will train small other businesses in rural areas, provide them with the right training materials. They will go out and do a lot of these projects. We just finished about 2 years ago another extension of this project. This is some of the franchising actions. We served about 90,000 students using this type of model. There were a lot of business development linked to sanitation also. We developed also school sanitation guidelines. You know, we find that the mop that's used in the kitchen is the same one used in the toilet. So having these cleaning protocols like how you have in your office block for schools and provide this very easy learning, how you would clean, how you would wash. These are very important things also if you think about the COVID situation, having these proper cleaning protocols in place. We managed to get this model into practice. One of the FMCG companies extended this to 150 schools. So that's how we, through these different types of partnerships, we can take innovation up and scale. So it's just about getting the cleaner and recognizing cleaners and having a proper job specification and those type of things. We look at the circular economy aspects of sanitation. You know, instead of disposing everything, can't we reuse it? We've been trying these out at various different, from lab scale to field scale, different types of systems, different types of complexities, you know. But the latest part of our research is if you really want to make revenue, you have to look at the quantity and quality of your recovered products. And this is a case example from Switzerland, where the product that was developed from urine meets a specific standard for reuse. And so a lot of our research in South Africa currently underway is looking at this whole chain and looking at the actual specifications according to industry and commercial standards. Appealing this toilet design is very another part that's really adds upliftment to on the sustainability of these systems. Limiting vandalisms. If you look at the diagram on the right, we have these little alleyways where the cistern is hidden. And so you can hide the cistern so no one can remove these things. We find that a lot of these communal blocks, it's one of the first things to get broken is the doors and the cisterns. We've also been doing SFDs. Imanti was one of the leads for these projects. We plan to launch a national SFD program in August. In South Africa, we're adapting it for our own local context. We're going to try and simplify it, but also we want to do forecasting. And you need this type of forecasting to include it as part of the KPIs for the municipalities. So these are key aspects that we're doing for the should flow diagrams, and Lusanda's also alluded to it as part of a national initiative. As I said, you can have a lot of good technologies, but you need enabling drivers for the uptake. So there's different types of policies. Our trade and industry has bought into the industrialization of new sanitation. Lusanda talked about a new FSM strategy. We have different types of standards, where we have regulatory and policy support to water saving and sludge treatment technology. These are some of the standards. And this is the document that Lusanda produced. The National Sanitation Integrated Plan incorporates the wastewater, the non-sewage and sewage parts together. This is our industrialized policy strategies and where we need to focus on in terms of these new technologies. And lastly, since we're in a COVID situation and we're having this conference virtually, you know, around the world, they've developed sewage-based COVID surveillance, water quality surveillance. We actually started on the non-sewer domain. We actually started picking up signal at the start of our own third peak in South Africa. And we're getting the methodology quite corrected or streamlined, because the non-sewer is much more diverse in terms of different types of systems, standpipes, you know, latrines, communal systems. But the important thing is we now are setting ourselves on a path where we have a tool that's going to come available to include the non-sewer part as part of the surveillance. And we're also looking at variants, COVID variants in the sewage and the fecal sludges. This is my acknowledgements, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sudhir, for that wonderful presentation. It's always interesting to listen to the research work and innovations that your department or organization is doing. Thank you so much. At this point in time, we are going to launch a poll just before we go to play a short video, just to get an understanding of where people are in terms of understanding the FSM. So we're just going to launch that poll now, and then we see. My colleague has just launched the poll. Yes. Have you previously used FSM Toolbox? We just need to understand. We'll give people a few seconds to respond.
80% of the people have voted. I think we're sitting at 90%, so I'm going to end the polling and I'll share the results.
Okay. Thank you very much, Philip, for that. As you can see there, the results are telling us that 33% of the people that are sitting in this webinar today, they have used the FSM Toolbox, and 67%, which is quite a big number, have not used the FSM Toolbox. What we'll do, we'll just show a short video now, which introduces tells us about the FSM Toolbox, and then after that video, we will hear more about basically the nature of the FSM Toolbox. Thank you so much, Philip.
Citywide Inclusive Sanitation, CWIS, means that everybody benefits from adequate sanitation service delivery outcomes. Human waste is safely managed along the whole sanitation service chain. Effective resource recovery and reuse are considered. A diversity of technical solutions is embraced for adaptive, mixed and incremental approaches, and on-site and sewerage solutions are combined in either centralized or decentralized systems to better respond to the realities found in developing country cities. Fecal sludge management, FSM, which is the collection, transport, and treatment of fecal sludge from pit latrines, septic tanks, or other on-site sanitation systems, is one essential component of citywide inclusive sanitation. The FSM Toolbox offers a suite of tools, guidelines, case studies, videos, and other resources to assist practitioners and policymakers to assess their performance on managing fecal sludge and formulate strategies for infrastructure improvements, institutional reforms, and financial mobilization for sustainable and effective FSM. The FSM Toolbox has two main product features. The first is the FSM Assessment Tool. This tool is designed to assist users to undertake a 360-degree self-assessment of the status of FSM in the city and generates a city FSM score supported by a detailed assessment report, which serves as a starting point to identify areas demanding greater attention. So, if you're looking to generate a citywide baseline on fecal sludge management and identify areas for improvement, we encourage you to use the assessment tool. The second product feature is a planning toolkit, which offers a suite of tools that is designed to assist users with questions such as, what is the most appropriate treatment technology for my city? Or, how many desludging trucks does my city need? Every product has a data-light rapid version and a survey-based geospatial version called the FSM Pro series. FSM Pro versions of the tools are powerful geospatial tools that allows you to collect, track, plan, and visualize all your data and your decisions geospatially real-time. The platform has several attractive features and functions too. It allows you to save your data, generate attractive maps and infographics, and track your progress over time online. It also assists users on how best to collect the data through hints and suggestions. The platform offers a search-friendly library of resources on procurement templates, policy documents, and guidelines. The tools and resources are available in 4 languages, namely French, English, Lao, and Bangla. Let's get started.
Thank you so much. At this point in time, I am going to call upon Unati Jack, who is going to give us tell us more details about the FSM Toolbox. Unati Jack is a WASH specialist from Imanti Management. She has worked with different stakeholders in the different fields in developing, and has also involved in a lot of, or a number of various tools that have been developed, both for wastewater and sanitation in South Africa and abroad. At this point in time, I will just ask for Unati's presentation to be up, and Unati will take over. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure if you can see me because now I've switched to my phone screen because the computer is giving me problems. I cannot connect. Okay.
Unati,
yes.
sorry, just we can see you clearly, but the presentation is not in the presentation mode. It needs to be taken into the presentation mode. Whoever's doing that.
It should be there now.
It is now. It is now.
I can see, yes. Yes, I can see the presentation there. Okay. I'm going to tell you about how we in South Africa carried out the rapid profiling of FSM Toolbox. Next. Remember, colleagues, that there are different role players in fecal sludge management. Therefore, it's all about perspective as to where each of those role players are sitting, and as individuals, and also as a collective in terms of the whole sector. And next. The project that we conducted, we were appointed by FSM Alliance to conduct a short-term profiling project, and which was approximately 4 months. So that was a short-term project with the main 3 objectives. Number 1 was securing a high-level sector lead sanitation sector awareness, that when we talk about sector lead, we're talking about the Department of Water and Sanitation, as you've heard Lusanda speaking before. We also had to provide technical opportunity to profile FSM Toolbox to the municipal sector as the users or the potential users, and also conduct in-depth skills transfer and user experience assessment to assess how will this function in South Africa, looking at whether the data is available, how can this be conducted to get the experience from the user. So you can see that then that means we wanted a balance between the potential users or the users and the sector stakeholders. Next. In terms of the high-level engagements, we engaged with the Department of Water and Sanitation, as Lusanda mentioned previously, that we had trainings. So we introduced this concept to them, which was very much welcomed. Also, what we got after that, DWS assisted us to engage with other sector partners, such as the National Sanitation Task Team. And from there, the department saw it necessary that we introduce this to other stakeholders, and that was done via meetings, workshops, just to familiarize DWS with FSM Toolbox. And next. What worked well in terms of that high-level training engagements with the national sector lead was that the department, as I mentioned earlier, and also you've heard from Lusanda, that the department is in the process of reviewing the policies. It was a great timing for them. Also, the department saw it necessary to include not only the national department, but the regional heads as well in terms of the training to get them trained on the FSM Toolbox. And next. Okay, so mentioned that department is in the process of updating this. So the introduction of FSM Toolbox has assisted a lot in terms of that. That was the department's representatives in all 9 regions were trained on FSM tool, or they were introduced to the FSM Toolbox, and they were trained on basically how does it function, how it can assist the department and the municipalities. It was identified that there could be an opportunity of tracking SDG progress through SFD development if SFDs can be developed by the whole country and updated from time to time. So that was an idea that came out of the engagements with the high level sector. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the department facilitated introduction of FSM Toolbox to the National Sanitation Task Team, which includes the different role players in the sanitation field in South Africa, such as the Department of Health, Department of Education, all those. Next. In terms of FSM Toolbox technical opportunity training, we offered FSM Toolbox Masterclass, where we targeted municipalities who were previously adopters of SFD through the Water Research Commission project that MUNICIPALITIES conducted in the past 2 years. So these are municipalities that have that are familiar with the development of SFD. They have developed SFDs through that Water Research Commission project. So the masterclass was conducted with those municipalities. That was 7 out of the 9 municipalities. This was done in collaboration with the recognized masterclass lead in the municipal space, which is the Municipal Institute of Learning, MILE, at eThekwini. We co-opted the sector leaders during this masterclass in profiling and supporting the program, where they gave presentations from the sector. Lusanda was there presenting, Sudhir was also there, and our South African Local Government Association was there. So the municipality or the users saw that, sorry, the sector is working together on this, and MUNICIPALITIES has got the support of these other departments. We also used other workshops and webinars, suitable platforms that we saw fit to also introduce FSM Toolbox. Next. What worked well now in terms of these master classes? Obviously, this was conducted during the time of COVID, and we had to conduct it online. However, it was well attended, and the participation was great. And the municipalities were enthusiastic about FSM Toolbox, and we also found other platforms such as the Water Institute of Southern Africa, where we conducted a webinar introducing FSM Toolbox, and also other projects that are also overlapping. We introduced FSM Toolbox and SFDs, such as the USAID project that we conducted in Limpopo. Next. What you can see now in this slide, the type of feedback that we received from the municipalities when we conducted these trainings. For example, if we just take the first one, that participant they indicated, I would appreciate it if we can have further sessions each and every year. So which means the participants realize that this shouldn't be a once-off thing. However, there should be a recap, and also there are new things coming in the space from time to time. So it would be very important to keep people updated. Next. In terms of in-depth skills transfer and user experience, from the municipalities that participated in the Water Research Commission SFD project, we asked for a volunteer municipality. And Utukela DM, who will be presenting later from KwaZulu-Natal, was the first to volunteer. So we introduced the project to them. We discussed how are we going to conduct this. So it was a collaborative, and we collected data, which was a collaborative and supported data collection and data loading on FSM Toolbox. So we worked together in terms of that, Emanti and Utukela, in loading data and interpreting results and all that. Next. The municipality will be providing more details on their experience in terms of this project. However, just to mention a few of the positives that came out of this, it was indicated that FSM Toolbox does highlight where data is lacking. It's an eye opener in some of the aspects. For example, they never thought as to, okay, is this a municipal land? Is this not? How do we find out the information? How do we know this? How do we know that? I think some of this you will hear from the municipality in detail when they provide their presentation. However, what is important is that the municipality noted that the SFD graphic, it confirms the noted challenges by the municipality, and it provides, the graphic is an excellent tool for communication. Next. And the challenges that were noted by the municipality was that it's quite time-consuming exercise. It was a time-consuming exercise initially, though I think the presenter will indicate later that, well, they find that it was worth it at the end, because it may require driving around, taking coordinates, collecting all that kind of data if you want for planning. So it's not a one person's task. You cannot just say there's one allocated person who does this. However, if there's one person, then the person has to facilitate and coordinate all this with different departments and different people. Also, it may not only be municipality involved, but information may be sourced from other stakeholders and role players as well. So I think more of these you'll hear from the municipality next. The implications that were highlighted were that, okay, I've mentioned some of these. I think I will leave this and then for the municipality to tell us more about this. And next. In terms of what did not work well, as I've mentioned before, the training had to be online, and the municipality was experiencing a lot of internet issues at that time, and they could not attend the FSM Toolbox training, which was a huge challenge for the pilot municipality. Okay. Next, okay. So what, if we think about this now, we should all ask ourselves, FSM Alliance has done a great job of introducing FSM Toolbox in South Africa. and you have heard from our sector partners who have presented previously. So we may be asking yourselves, so what? What I can only say at this moment is watch the space. We are trying to work in partnership and collaborating, sector leaders, stakeholders, and the private sector, as Lusanda mentioned before. So this is becoming a huge thing, as Lusanda has told us previously. Next slide. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Unati. We really appreciate to hear about how you have profiled the tool in South Africa, you and your team. With that, I am going to call on to my next speaker, and my next speaker is Mr. Bheki Khoza. Mr. Bheki Khoza is a general manager for the Municipal Health and Water Services for uThukela District Municipality. Mr. Khoza has been in the health and environmental health industry for many, many years, and he has been involved in a number of initiatives relating to water, environmental health, and as well as sanitation. And at this time, I will ask for Mr. Khoza's presentation to be up on the screen and give over to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good evening to all the colleagues internationally. The uThukela District Municipality will be sharing the lessons that we learn in utilizing the FSM Toolbox. Let's get to the next slide. This is a glimpse of our municipality. It consists of 3 local municipalities because we are a district municipality. That is Alfred Duma Local Municipality, Nkosi-Langalibalele Local Municipality, as well as uKhahlamba Local Municipality. You will see that there are small towns under each local municipality. Next slide, please. And also, this is a glimpse of the wastewater treatment works that we have in our municipality. There are 9 in all. In our bigger local municipality called Alfred Duma, we have got 4. And in our uKhahlamba, which is a smaller local municipality, we've got 2 wastewater works. And then in Nkosi-Langalibalele, we have got 3. Next slide, please. If we go to the, okay, let's move to the next slide. That will indicate clearly to us when we have been using the tool, what results we got. In Alfred Duma, our management of the sludge or wastewater was safely managed at 39%. It means 61% is poorly managed, which is confirmed by the tool. Next slide, please. And in Nkosi-Langalibalele, where I said there are 3 wastewater works that we are operating there, our tool indicated that we're fairly managing our wastewater at 55% safely, and 45% is unsafe management of our wastewater. The next slide, please. uKhahlamba local municipality, again, there we are not well managing our wastewater at 48%, and unsafe management of our wastewater is around 52%. Next slide, please. Next slide, looking at the service delivery in our municipality, we have classified our management of waste according to the colors there. On the enabling environment, if you can go to the next slide, we've got green, yellow, and red. Red, which means we are bad. Green, which means we have things in place that are enabling us to work on waste management. We're looking at steward sanitation, that is enabling. On our policy and legislation, we are not that good, but we have something in place. We'll improve on those. And the next slide, please. On our delivery of or developing our sewer or sewage, we have some challenges there. You can see on capacity as well as outreach, we very short, it's very red. And also funding is quite a challenge. And also we haven't covered all our population in the district in terms of service delivery on sanitation. Next slide, please. On sustaining, that's where the real problem is. The infrastructure that is in place, we are struggling to sustain it to do what it's supposed to do in terms of ensuring that there is hygiene on sanitation issues in our district. We have to work hard to get that one going so that we sustain the infrastructure that is in place. Next slide, please. On non-sewer sanitation, yes, there are a few challenges on policy issues. It's not very clear, as we have said previously, that we will improve and review our policies regarding the on-site sanitation as well as transportation of sewer, etc. And also ensure that we cover all the people with appropriate sanitation. That's why the non-sewer sanitation will assist that, because we are aware that with sewer sanitation, we won't be able to cover all people due to the shortage of water supply, as we from time to time struggle and we have some droughts. Next slide, please. Also on the issue of the sewer, non-sewer sanitation, there is a problem of funding that we still have to get in order to ensure that all our communities have got appropriate sanitation. Next slide, please. Again, on sustaining, it's the same thing. On non-sewer, we have serious challenges also, where we see the red there that we are unable to sustain those appropriately. And when it comes to pitratins, there are challenges relating to contamination of the water table and other water resources. And we are unable to cover all the communities with the appropriate VIP latrines. The next slide, please. Thank you, Chairperson. However, we have a plan to deal with the challenges that the tool has given us. We have a business plan that is in place. We'll be working with the partners to ensure that our business plan is implemented, because as you've seen, funding is a challenge. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koza, for that insightful presentation, sharing your experiences and how you have seen, or how it has helped you uncover some of the challenges and where you can start in terms of addressing some of the issues that you have at the municipality. We really appreciate that. And our last speaker, I'm going to call upon Mr. Ramkrishna Paul. Mr. Paul is a senior consultant at Athena Infonomics, and his interests basically are on the WASH and public health. Mr. Paul has been involved in a number of projects addressing issues related to effective fecal sludge management and supporting the development of city sanitation plans for about 31 municipalities in Bangladesh. At this point in time, I'm going to give over to you, Ram. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Hello, everyone. I'll just, I think, as we saw, like 30% of the participants over here did have an exposure to the what the toolbox can offer, or what the toolbox website looks like. And for the remaining 70% of you, I'll just give you a very quick snapshot of how the toolbox has evolved over the past years, and what are the currently, what kind of tools and what kind of features that the platform has, and what can be taken out as an output from the toolbox platform. So just to take you through the toolbox history over the timeline. So the first time the toolbox was developed in 2015, and there were 8 tools which were developed by Asian Institute of Technology, and then there were additional 5 tools which were developed by partner organizations, and there were a few relevant secondary documents as well on the platform. This is just a quick snapshot of all the tools that were available, that was available during that time on the platform. The blue ones are the ones which were developed by partners, and the others were developed by Asian Institute of Technology. And as you can see, some of the tools that was on the platform, some of them were Excel-based tools, and some of them were web platform-based tools as well, which was the shit flow diagram, the SaniTab, and the SaniTake, which were web-based tools on the platform. What we saw on the platform on the toolbox initially was that the tools and the documents were laid out across the FSM program workflow, and based on the user typology. When we were discussing with, we had a lot of interviews with the users of the toolbox then, and we came across few challenges on the toolbox that we observed. One of them was the complex navigation interface. It was reported that it was not easy to navigate and understand on the existing platform that was there. And also the toolbox did not relate to with respect to how if somebody is coming to the platform without any guidance or without any know-how of what are the tools on the platform, so it's easy to get lost among the different tools that is there on the platform. We also saw that across in the last slide, the tools that I just showed, the glimpse of the tools, there were various tools which are performing the same functions. For example, like the shit flow diagram and the situation assessment tool. Both the tools were used for assessing what is the current situation, the sanitation infrastructure situation in the town or the area. We also saw that there were a lot of redundancies and gaps in the tool questionnaires because the tools were independent across the platform. So the tools did not talk to each other, or the tools did not resonate to one single algorithm or one single equation to assess how much fecal sludge is to be generated in a city, or what should be the treatment plant size of needs to be in place to cater to the entire city's fecal sludge that is generated. So what we then did was, and the tools were also not used or not in place as a user function. So the tools did not correspond to assessment or planning needs, but then the tools were independently laid out on the platform. Then we rearranged the tools, and we tried to improve the website interface and make it more user-friendly, and also contextualize the website content across 5 different countries. So what we did was we opened up all the tools and looked into categorized them based on functionalities. As Professor Kwaza mentioned, there's an assessment set of tools, there's a planning set of tools. We documented all the algorithms and the equations, and we did a technical audit of the tools to understand what are the data that is required for each tool, and understand what is the data that is needed to come to an end output for the planning needs. And we did a technical audit of all the tools, and some of the tools were not considered under the technical audit, either because of the developers' intent to commercialize the tools, or the scope included water and wastewater management as well. And then we looked at we removed certain redundancies, strengthened the equations, and reorganized it into a user-friendly meta structure. And then once the tool was developed, the platform was developed, we had training workshops across Asia and Africa, from which we received a lot of feedback from the training participants. And then we again reworked on the tool to address all the feedback that was received and incorporate all the feedback. Along with the feedback from the training workshops, we also did a lot of pilot implementations. We did pilot implementations in India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. We did in 18 towns of Kathmandu Valley, 10 towns in Bangladesh, and 5 towns in India. And currently it's being implemented in Africa as well. So all the learnings from these implementation, what are the challenges? A lot of challenges, and I saw in the chat box as well, a lot of challenges. Initially, when we were trying to implement it, a lot of challenges came across with respect to the data that needs to be collected, with respect to the mobile linked data collection, survey applications as well. A lot of bugs as well. We tried to address all of them, and then we currently the tool as it is right now. So the tool is free of bugs, but and we are right now implementing it in, as Professor Kwaza just mentioned, from his implementation. So all this feedback, they were incorporated into the tool so that the tool is now user feedback incorporated and addresses all the challenges. So currently the toolbox as it is right now on the www.fsmtoolbox.com. So currently the tools are laid across different business cases or the use cases of the toolbox. One is with respect to the assessment. So under assessment, we have a shit flow diagram, which helps you assess the infrastructural sanitation situation in a particular town or a city. Then there is also a tool on the CSDA, which is the City Service Delivery Assessment, which is looking at the enabling environment part of it. So shit flow diagram looks at the infrastructural situation, whereas the City Service Delivery Assessment looks at the policies, regulation, finance related, human resource related, institutional strengthening related situation assessment of a particular city. Some towns might come up and some towns might have already done an assessment of their enabling environment and they want to do only a shit flow diagram. They can use the independent shit flow diagram tool. Some towns which have done the shit flow diagram and they only want to assess the enabling environment can use the independent CSDA tool. And whereas some towns which have not done or not understood or assessed the situation of the entire city throughout, so they can start with an integrated assessment where both the tools are combined together to provide one single output. Once the assessment is done, then under planning, we have 3 tools primarily. One is the stakeholder engagement, which helps you understand the influence and the interest of different stakeholders. Then the second one is infrastructural planning. So the infrastructural planning tool is something which is divided into 2 parts. One is the citywide planning, which helps you plan for an entire city or catchments of a city. The next one is the regional planning tools, whereas it also helps in understanding how for a group of cities or for a cluster of cities, how that can be planned, and one or a few number of or 3 or 4 different cities can be clustered together for one fecal sludge management solution or one treatment plant catering to different cities within a proximity. And then we have business models tool, which helps you showcase what are the potential business models which can be implemented across the value chain. So these are the tools which is there under the execute portion of the toolbox, and along with that we have close to 1400 resources which is there in the online repository, online library, case studies, policies, manuals, videos, and guidelines. So all of these tools, so we thought of that the tools should not be independent of the other tools in in our sector. So we definitely thought of how the tools can be globally converged as well. So it also talks. So the SFD tool is the same as the tool which is there on the Susanna GIZ, the Susanna platform. The CSDA is again the tool that was developed by the World Bank and the Peter and Isabel. And the stakeholder engagement the tool takes learning from the prognosis change framework tool and the previously stakeholder analysis tool. And the business models is based on the publication of resource recovery and reuse by IWMI. So this is just a glimpse of all the tools now. But then all the tools on the platform, they have demo videos which can help you guide through what the process is going to look like before using the tools. One of the things that came up in the chat box as well with respect to the data requirements, this is something which we also got in the feedback for the first round when we were doing interviews with the users, was that the tool, the users would like to understand what kind of data needs to be collected from the field before they even start investing or before they even plan on the tool. So for all the tools that is there on the platform, user can download the questionnaire and see or skim through the questions or the data points that is required before even investing into or before even planning to go to the field to collect data. So all the tools, so the PDF version of the questionnaires are downloadable on the platform. But then happy to take questions in the plenary discussion as well. So that is it from my side. Thabisa, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ram. That's really much appreciated and always interesting to hear the way forward in terms of the FSM toolbox. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. At this point in time, I am going to call on Grant McIntosh to lead us on the panel discussion. And I would also ask our panelists to just switch on their videos so that we can have time to chat more on the panel discussion before we close the session. Thank you. Over to you, Grant.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tabisa, for doing such a great job of keeping the flow going. Thank you to the FSMA team in the background, Jan and Ava, who've helped us, and then to each of the presenters. Really good presentations and excellent timekeeping. And I think also especially very good responding to the questions in the chats. So I, with Philip's help, have been trying to make sure that we keep tab of which questions are asked and answered, and then to make sure that we can get a bit of a discussion going and some questions specifically to the panelists. So Lusanda, I have one for you. In that, as you've mentioned, the situation in South Africa has historically, well, I think it was actually Sudiru mentioned a gold standard, which is kind of waterborne sanitation. And yet all the challenges that we face with water restrictions and the opportunities around new technologies, etc. Do you have a view as to how we can ensure that communities accept that on-site sanitation might not be a temporary solution, but can be actually a desirable future permanent solution? Or in a slightly different way, how can we make on-site sanitation technologies attractive to communities? And anybody else is feel free to help Lusanda respond to this question.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Let me try and answer the questions. I think the first thing that we need to pay attention to is to engage communities and leaders on climate change issues. Communities need to understand countries' vulnerability to climate change. For instance, in South Africa, we've got low and variable rainfall. Therefore, our water supply is limited. Therefore, when we are making decisions on sanitation systems, when we engage communities in these issues around climate change, they will see a need. Here in South Africa, for instance, Western Cape, you will share that you've experienced the serious prolonged drought season where you had to rely on bottled water and try every other available opportunity to have water for basic needs. Therefore, we need to opt for on-site sanitation. Government has started in our National Water and Sanitation Master Plan. We are saying let's move towards non-sewer sanitation. We don't have options. We don't have water available in our country. So when we make it in such a way that it shares information, we are transparent about issues and reasoning behind going for on-site sanitation, and also budgeting for operation and maintenance for non-sewer sanitation. As I've indicated in my presentation before, our focus was on sewer sanitation. Even the operation and maintenance, the focus has been given there. But in terms of on-site sanitation, we've been providing a service and lacking in terms of operation and maintenance. Then it's not attractive to people because they want a system that is given attention. If the pits are full and they don't know what needs to be done in terms of pit emptying, then I would opt for gold standard, which is given more attention.
Thank you very much, Lusanda. And I think you've led on to two questions which can follow from that. The one is that we need to embrace these innovations, which I think Sudiru was alluding to and describing to us in support of those climate change responses. So I'm going to pose a question to Sudiru. about what do we need to change to increase innovation uptake from his perspective. And I'd then like to put a question to Mr. Becky that we've heard the importance of increasing operation and maintenance priorities of sanitation within the municipal space. So while Sudhir is thinking about the first question which came through, can we ask Becky to please think about, have you yet found that the FSM Toolbox is a means by which you can influence municipal leadership around prioritizing budgeting towards sanitation, in particular around operations and maintenance, and especially the non-sewage sanitation? Thank you. Sudhir, first, please.
Yeah, and so, you know, working at the Water Research Commission, we work with a lot of universities, consultants on the innovation space. We used to only work until a technology readiness of about 3 or 5. We realized to actually start pushing a lot of these innovations further along, we needed soft landing programs high up on the innovation chain. So this is why we have a technology demonstration programs. We have SASTEP. It's to try and speed up these processes. A lot of these programs are with partners. We can't do it ourselves. We have DWS. But, you know, when you start looking at these new processes, let's think about it like a Tesla or any new product that comes in. Because it's so different, you have to have the policy, the laws, the regulations all aligned to allow and facilitate these new products to come through. And a lot of the stuff that we have achieved, I gave the example of the low flush system. It came from ideation to full scale within a period of 10 years, critical mass. It was only through partnerships of various organizations and companies that we could achieve that. And there was a lot of research to back up the change. So that's a continuous process. So that's the end.
Thank you, Sudhir. And Becky, have you got a comment on the role that the FSM Toolbox is able to play or might have already played within your municipality to help raise the prioritization linked to sanitation and in particular fecal sludge management?
Thank you very much, Grant. Yes, true. It helped us a lot because it identified where the challenges are in the sanitation value chain. Specifically in prioritizing funding, we have prioritized the refurbishment of, you know, the plants where there were issues, the plants were dilapidating. We have identified those areas where there were gaps using this tool. And we feel that also in non-sewage sanitation, it's going to help us going forward so that the leadership will prioritize the funding that should go there as well, because it tells us clear where the challenges are, and all we need to do is what we need to put in place in line with the green drop requirements. Because what we do, we look at the green drop requirements, where are the gaps, and then the tool will indicate the gaps in relation to those green drop requirements. And the leadership are happy to fund what will fill the gaps that we have found in the green drop requirements. Thank you.
And can I ask you, Becky, having heard about that progress, do you think it might help you to introduce some of the innovations that Sudhir and the WRC at a technical level and Lusanda and DWS at the institutional arrangements level are keen to see?
Yes, Chairperson, I think that will help as well, especially on the issue of training that will assist the municipality. These structures will assist us, these sectors, in ensuring that we are able to manage the sewer systems accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm having a look to see some of the other questions that came through. Unati, here's one for you. Are you still with us, Unati?
Yes, Grant, I'm here.
Yes, okay. Data is extremely important for using the FSM Toolbox. From your experience, how can a municipality go about addressing the data challenges? What does a municipality need to do to start using the toolbox?
Philip de Souza, my colleague, always says the most important thing is to start. It doesn't matter how much data you have. Yes, you may not have all the data that is required. However, start small, start with what you have. Start and the toolbox will assist you in identifying where your gaps are in terms of data. And then once you know what kind of data you don't have, then you will know where to go and try to find that data. I think I should mention that data or SFD development, or even using toolbox, should be considered as a progressive tool, because I don't think there's anyone who has ever had all the data that is required. The other thing that the toolbox assists in, it assists in conducting surveys. If you do not have data, there are questionnaires that assist in terms of going out there and collect that kind of data that is required. So I think those are the things that the municipality should think of. Don't think you will have everything, just start small, then progress.
Thank you, Nati. So I think what we've heard so far is that from the municipality side, from a Nati side, as a practitioner who supported municipalities, we've seen the FSM Toolbox making a very useful contribution at various levels. And so Ram, for you, there's a question, there are a few questions. I'm going to kind of throw a few of them at you in one go. I know your shoulders are broad. One is whether all of the tools are working and sort of bug-free. That's a good question for a programmer, a developer. Another one is any possibility of making it open source so it becomes flexible and adaptable. Perhaps you can talk about pros and cons. And I think a third one around how often would the database and algorithm be updated going forward? Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. Yeah. So with respect to the first question, I think I also responded to Xavier that yes, I mean, like as to our knowledge, based on the field level experimentation and the pilots, the tools are bug free. But in case, I mean, like these are always so like iOS or any like online system which always requires an update. So if you face any issue with respect to any signing in or any trouble logging in or any bugs that you come across, please do write to us. I have shared the contact details for the customer service or the outreach that grievance redressal user ID on the chat box. So please do write to us. It's toolbox@FSMalliance.org. And with respect to the second question, sorry, Grant, I am a bit. Can you just repeat the second and the third question once again?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just give me a moment. One of the questions was, had you thought about the benefits of taking it open source, and is it something you're considering?
Yes, so I think that is something that we are. I mean, like there's no constraints with respect to making out open source. We do believe that the toolbox should not be a black box where what the algorithms are or what the equations that is being used to estimate the fecal sludge quantity or the volume of fecal sludge generated. It should not be in the black. So we are continuously working towards it. and we will be in discussion with FSM Alliance, obviously. So we'll see the possibility to upload all the backend documents and the supporting documents onto the and make it into the public domain. With respect to, and I'm also seeing Stefan with respect to one question on the where the data is being saved and data rights. That is something which is one of the primary concerns we also wanted to address. So the data is only accessible by the user. If the user does not share their user ID and the password, it's not accessible to anybody else. And all the data that one is working on the toolbox with is automatically saved. Suppose if you are entering any information for a particular city and you do not have the bandwidth or the time to go through that entire process, as we know that it's a time-consuming process with entering the data. The platform automatically saves your data and it is stored in the My Dashboard on your home screen. You can come in, log in later at any point of interval, maybe after a week or after a month, and you'll still be able to see what progress you have made and what the data that you have already. I hope that answers the questions. Yeah.
No, you've done very well, Ram. And I kind of wondered whether you weren't going to refer some of those questions to the people who use it, like Unati, or even Philip for that matter, or Tabisa, because they would have said it's pretty bug-free. But ladies and gentlemen, we are now sort of 2 minutes off where our session will end. I think it's been a great session. I think you have the contact details of all of the presenters. I would like to thank this collaborative led by FSM Alliance and bringing the toolbox to South Africa. It's been wonderful to hear from the national lead through to our innovation owners at the WRC, through to WASH practitioners and the municipal perspective about the practical benefits and value. And then always good to know that somebody like Ram has got our back on that very important data and making the tools continually improving and beneficial to the sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're pretty much on track to say thank you very much and to wish you well and to have a good evening. With that, Tabisa, any last words from you? Otherwise, I think we can close the session.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.